You replay the conversation, rewrite what you said, imagine what they thought. You run through tomorrow, next week, next year, every possible outcome, every potential disaster. Your mind won't stop. It cycles, it spirals, it creates problems that don't exist yet. It resurrects problems that are already gone. And somewhere in the noise, you lose the present moment entirely. The Stoics had a name for this. They called it being ruled by impressions, by phantasiae, mental images that trap you in fear, regret, and endless speculation. But they also had a solution, a technique so simple, so powerful, that it's been used for over 2,000 years to cut through the chaos. This isn't about positive thinking, it's about clear thinking, and it might be exactly what you need to finally quiet your mind. Overthinking isn't new, but it's worse now than it's ever been. You live in a world designed to hijack your attention. Social media, news cycles, endless notifications. Everyone has an opinion. Every choice feels monumental. Your mind is constantly processing, analyzing, predicting, protecting. And most of the time, it's protecting you from things that will never happen. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. They lived in a world of political chaos, war, and uncertainty. They didn't have smartphones, but they had the same human mind you do. The same tendency to spiral, to catastrophize, to get lost in mental loops. And they developed a philosophy not to escape reality, but to see it clearly. Stoicism wasn't about suppressing emotions. It was about training your mind to distinguish between what you can control and what you can't, between what's real and what's imagined, between what's happening and what you're telling yourself is happening. Because most of overthinking isn't about the situation, it's about the story you're creating around it. The Stoics called these stories impressions, and they believed that if you could learn to examine your impressions before reacting to them, you could free yourself from unnecessary suffering. This is the foundation of the technique, and it starts with one simple question. The first principle of Stoicism is this: some things are up to you, and some things are not. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who was born a slave, put it bluntly: if you waste your energy trying to control what you cannot control, you will suffer endlessly. So what can't you control? Other people's opinions, other people's actions, the past, the future, the weather, the economy, most of what happens in the world. What can you control? Your thoughts, your reactions, your choices, your effort, your attention. That's it. And yet most of your overthinking is spent trying to control the uncontrollable. You replay the argument, trying to change what you said. But it's over. You can't control the past. You imagine how someone will react to your message, but you can't control their interpretation, only what you send. You worry about whether you'll succeed, but you can't control the outcome, only your preparation. The Stoics would say, you're suffering because you're attempting the impossible. The technique begins here, with a radical acceptance of what is beyond your power. Not resignation, not apathy, acceptance. Because once you stop trying to control what you can't, all your energy flows back to what you can. This is the first filter. When you notice yourself overthinking, ask, is this within my control? If it's not, you practice letting go. Not because you don't care, but because worrying won't change it. If it is, you take action, immediately. No more loops, no more spirals. You identify what's actually in your hands and you act. This alone will eliminate half of your overthinking, because half of it was always about things you could never change. But what about the things you do control? What about your thoughts themselves? This is where the Stoics went deeper. They understood that your thoughts are automatic. Impressions arise constantly. You see something and your mind immediately interprets it, judges it, reacts to it. Someone doesn't text back, your mind says, they're angry, they don't like me. I said something wrong, your boss calls a meeting. Your mind says, I'm getting fired. They found out. It's over. You feel a pain in your chest. Your mind says, heart attack. This is it. The Stoics called this practice examining your impressions. It means catching the thought before it spirals, before it becomes a story, before it consumes you. You notice the impression and you test it. Is this fact or interpretation? Is this what happened or what I fear might happen? Am I reacting to reality or to my mental image of reality? Most of the time, you'll find you're reacting to the image, to the story, not to what's actually in front of you. The Stoics also practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This wasn't pessimism, it was preparation. Marcus Aurelius would wake up and say to himself, "Today I will meet people who are rude, ungrateful, and selfish. I'm prepared for it." Not to be cynical, but so that when it happened, he wouldn't be thrown off balance. He'd already considered it, accepted it as part of life. This technique stops catastrophic thinking, because when you've already imagined the worst-case scenario and planned for it, it loses its power over you. You're not spiraling into what if. You've already looked at what if directly. You've realized, even if that happens, I'll handle it. And suddenly, the overthinking stops, because there's nothing left to fear. This is the second filter. When your mind spirals, ask, is this fact or fear? If it's fear, examine it. Look directly at what you're avoiding. You'll often find that the reality is far less terrifying than the story you've built around it. And if something bad does happen, the Stoics would say, you'll deal with it then. Not now. Now is for what's actually in front of you. Here's what the Stoics understood that most people miss. Overthinking only exists in the past or the future, never in the present moment. Think about it. When you're completely absorbed in what you're doing right now, there's no room for spiraling, no room for regret or anxiety. The problem is, your mind rarely stays here. It jumps backward, forward, anywhere but now. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his personal journal, Meditations, not as a platitude, as a practice. He would remind himself, the past is gone, the future hasn't arrived. All you have is this breath, this step, this moment. And in this moment, most of the time, you're fine. You're not in danger, you're not failing, you're not falling apart. You're here, breathing, alive. The chaos exists in your thoughts about the moment, not in the moment itself. The Stoics practiced bringing their attention back to the present through simple actions. Seneca would focus on his breath, on the sensations in his body, on the task directly in front of him. Epictetus taught his students to notice when their minds wandered into speculation and gently return to what they were actually doing. This is the antidote to overthinking, not fighting your thoughts, but anchoring yourself in reality. When you feel the spiral starting, bring yourself back. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, or ask yourself, what is the next right action? Not tomorrow's action, not the action you should have taken yesterday, the one that's available right now. Because here's the truth, you can't think your way out of overthinking. You can only return, again and again, to what's real, to what's here, to what you can actually do. This is the third filter. When your mind spirals, ask, what's real right now? Not what you're afraid of, not what you regret. What's actually happening in this moment? And most of the time you'll realize, right now you're okay. So how do you actually apply this? How do you turn ancient philosophy into a daily practice? The Stoics didn't just theorize, they had rituals, disciplines, daily habits that trained the mind. Marcus Aurelius kept a journal. Every morning, he'd write reminders to himself about what he could control, about staying present, about examining his impressions. Every evening, he'd review his day, not to judge himself, but to notice where he'd been pulled off center, where he'd reacted instead of responded. You can do the same. Morning, write down the 3 filters. Ask yourself, what can I control today? What's likely to challenge me? How will I return to the present when my mind wanders? Throughout the day, when you notice overthinking, pause. Run through the filters. Is this in my control? If not, let it go. Is this fact or fear? If it's fear, examine it. What's real right now? Return to the present. Evening, reflect. Where did you spiral? Where did you stay grounded? What will you do differently tomorrow? The Stoics called this spiritual exercises, not religious, but exercises for the soul, for the mind. And like any exercise, it gets easier with practice. You won't master it overnight. You'll forget. You'll spiral. You'll lose the present moment 1,000 times. But each time you catch yourself and return, you're building the skill. You're training your mind to see clearly, to respond instead of react, to live in reality instead of in the stories you tell yourself. This is the practice, not perfection, not control, just consistent return to what's real, what's yours, and what's now. So let's bring it all together. The ancient Stoic technique to stop overthinking comes down to 3 filters. Filter 1, is this in my control? If it's not, let it go. Save your energy for what's actually in your hands. Filter 2, is this fact or fear? If it's fear, examine it. Look directly at what you're avoiding. You'll find it's rarely as catastrophic as your mind makes it. Filter 3, what's real right now? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now. Return to the present. That's where your power lives. This isn't about stopping all thought. It's about training your mind to distinguish between useful thinking and destructive spiraling, between preparing and catastrophizing, between reflection and rumination. The Stoics didn't have all the answers, but they understood something fundamental. You can't control the world, but you can control how you meet it. And when you stop fighting what you can't change, when you examine your fears instead of believing them, when you return to what's actually in front of you, you'll find something extraordinary. Peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're finally present for what is. So here's the question I'll leave you with. What would your life look like if you stopped overthinking and started living in reality? If this resonated with you, subscribe and keep watching. We're exploring the mind and transforming lives, one insight at a time. Thanks for being here.